Hello, everyone, and welcome to the December edition of Techspert Talks. I'm Troy Rainey, and I'll be your host for today's session. Today's Techspert Talk session is Unleashing the Qlik Talend Cloud Dynamic Engine with our own Jeremy Lebois. Jeremy, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm product manager at Qlik, wrangling the Talend data fabric processing solutions for past 4 years.
Great. Today we're going to be talking about enabling the dynamic engine, how to scale this kind of always on deployment, and how this expands your DevOps agility. To begin with, what is the dynamic engine?
Yeah, so the dynamic engine is a processing solution. It's a modern stack that have been introduced a year ago that supports the Talend data fabric workload in a Kubernetes clusters on the customer infrastructure. So it provides scalability, it provides much more power than the remote engine from a cost perspective, from a performance perspective. Everything that you can do on the remote engine now can be done also on the dynamic engine at scale.
Okay, so it's a way for Qlik Talend Cloud to dynamically generate engines hosted on a Kubernetes cluster in the customer's environment.
Yep.
And what actually gets installed in that Kubernetes cluster?
So we have two levels of services, what we call the dynamic engine core or infrastructure services that handle the communication between the Qlik Talend cloud services and the Kubernetes cluster. And then the dynamic engine environment where the execution, say the processing services and capabilities is achieved.
And those dynamic engine core, that's in the namespace?
Yeah, so each dynamic engine environment lives in an isolated namespace. So this is a Kubernetes terminology.
Can you show us how to get started enabling the dynamic engine?
Yeah, sure. So everything starts from the Talend management console. So
Okay.
this is a cloud-based solution. So
Yes.
first we have to create what we call dynamic engine entity.
Okay.
Go to the processing section of the Talend management console. There is a dedicated tab to the dynamic engine. And here we can create a new dynamic engine. So I will just give it a name.
Okay.
Just a short description. All right. And then I just have to create my dynamic engine. So the entity has been created only on the Talend management console for the moment,
And what's next?
creating the dynamic engine environment.
Okay.
I have a dynamic engine entity on the Talend management console, no dynamic engine environment. It hasn't been yet deployed on my Kubernetes cluster. So let's move to the dynamic engine environment. So this is part of the environment section of the Talend management console. There is once again a dedicated tab. I will create a dynamic engine environment. So once again, pretty simple. I just need to give an environment name.
Okay.
So workspace is a way to isolate projects in the dynamic engine environment.
So workspace is kind of to help you keep things organized.
Absolutely. And then, boom, the dynamic engine environment has been created,
There
but
it
it's
is.
not yet assigned, as you can see here.
Okay, so I guess now we assign the dynamic engine to that environment.
I will jump on this view, and I will assign my newly created dynamic engine environment to this dynamic engine. I have the possibility now to download the pack of all configuration files that needs to be deployed on the Kubernetes cluster to make everything ready.
Great. Can we see what it looks like on the Kubernetes side?
Absolutely. So here I have my zip file. So I will just unzip it.
Okay, I see we got 3 different files there.
So the first one is a README. So it explains everything that you need to know.
That's great that that's included here, and that's the same information as the documentation on help, right?
Yep. I highly recommend to look at the documentation, by the way, because there are some prerequisites.
Okay, and I can include links to that documentation on the help site. Okay.
This is pretty standard fashion of deploying stuff on Kubernetes clusters.
Okay, so once the dynamic engine and the dynamic engine environment have been created, what's the next step?
The next step is to publish the job artifacts from Talend Studio to the Talend cloud.
Can you show us how that's done?
Absolutely, I can do it. So this is a demo in Talend Studio by default, demo rest route. So the artifact has been already published. So I will push a new version of this artifact.
Okay.
Publish it to the cloud.
All right,
From
great.
Talend Studio. So I'm going to have a short wizard telling me if it has been already published or not. So the new version that I will publish on Talend Cloud is the 0.12.
Oh, great.
All right. So it's a way also to roll back
All
just
right.
in case something went wrong. So
Okay.
then I have to select the dynamic engine environment where I want to publish this artifact, and then the workspace, and I just need to finish.
So it's publishing all that information from the artifact from Talend Studio to Talend Cloud.
Absolutely. If I switch to the Talend Management Console, so here what we can see is
Oh,
prior version, newer version.
great. And because this was published to a dynamic engine environment, this will be deployed to a dynamic engine automatically?
Yep.
There you go.
So this is the way in Talend Management Console to assign artifact and task to the right location where you want to process them. So here we are just speaking about the artifacts. Then I need to update or create the task
And what is that green dot indicating?
that a new version of the artifact is available.
Okay.
So I will update the artifact version, selecting a
Okay.
new one, updating everything, and boom, the new version of the artifact will be used for the next deployment.
So this task is already running, so what's the next step?
I will have just to redeploy it. And we have a specific mechanism available in Kubernetes to minimize the downtime or even to avoid any downtime while redeploying a new version of your task.
Very cool.
So this
Okay.
is one of the biggest advanced capability that the dynamic engine offers compared to the standard remote engine. Even for its own updates, all the jobs, all the tasks that are running within dynamic engine environments won't be affected while the dynamic engine update itself at the same time. Dynamic engine on that consideration is much more powerful than the remote engine.
So because this is a dynamic engine environment with autoscaling, what happens when the demand increases on a route like this?
No problem. Automatically, the dynamic engine environment will create new pods based on the request, address the needs, and automatically scale down once the workload is going lower. And everything has been automatically achieved using the dynamic engine. Nothing has been manually configured or deployed or managed through specific virtual machine and so on and so forth.
Very cool. And from the Talend Management Console, how do you monitor the tasks?
The way to look at the tasks that are running, so here I have a task. This is a route. It's running on a dynamic engine that creates XML files for each and every request. So if I move to this task, first the logs. For each replicas,
What's the difference in color there between purple and red?
so this is the ID living on the dynamic engine of the replica.
Okay.
This one is coming from another replica, another instance living in parallel to absorb the workload.
That's nice. Just so I understand, so when the demand on this task increases, it just automatically generates a new instance to support that demand. And when the demand lessens, it just removes that extra instance if it's not
Absolutely.
needed. Okay.
So we
that's
can
really
see the
cool.
number of replica.
So I imagine the scaling down aspect can be a big cost saver too.
Absolutely. You have a real way using the dynamic engine to optimize your cost. If nothing runs on the Kubernetes cluster, no workload, then the compute resources, they are released. You don't have to pay for that.
Yeah, I love how it can scale up to meet the demand and, like you say, scale down when it's not being used.
Absolutely. It's going to be done automatically. And thanks to the Helm Fashion support, the idea is also to give much more flexibility to highly customize the dynamic engine deployment, along with now we support the Google Kubernetes Engine, GKE, which expands Talend Dynamic Engine compatibility across major cloud providers. So now you can run data or API workload or data integration jobs on the Google Cloud, along with existing AWS and Azure Kubernetes services.
Great. Well, now it's time for Q&A. Please submit your questions to the Q&A tool on the left-hand side of your On24 console. We've already got a few in there, so I'll just read them from the top. First question. Is it possible to save a version of this, like a backup that we could use to roll back to if necessary?
So saving a version of the dynamic engine is possible, of course. This is how the Kubernetes configuration stands as of today, especially using GitOps. So you can versionize your Kubernetes configuration and dynamic configurations as well. So if you face any trouble deploying a new configuration or a new version of the dynamic engine, you can roll back it. And to be fairly honest, if something went wrong when you update a dynamic engine, the automatic rollback will be applied. So you don't have even to care about it.
That's great. So if it encounters an error, it will automatically roll back.
Yeah.
That is very cool. Great. Next question. Can this connect to an air gap environment?
Yeah. We have two layers of gap support, one for the dynamic engine deployment itself, and one layer for the communication with the talent management console for task and plan deployment. So for the first option, the idea is to give the possibility to rely on local image registry instead of the public Qlik registry for getting access to the Helm charts, images that are used for the dynamic engine deployments.
Hmm.
And for the second layer, the idea is to rely on HTTP or proxy to ease the communication between your Kubernetes or even your infrastructure and the Qlik Talend services. So everything is now supported in the context of the dynamic engine, the two layers that I've just mentioned.
Great. Thanks. Next question. Is Talend Studio required or could this be used with the Qlik Talend Cloud data integration?
The dynamic engine is a processing solution only in the context of the Talend data fabric.
Okay.
Considering this aspect, the Talend Studio is the only way today to create data integration job or data service or route that could be deployed on the dynamic engine through the Talend Management Console. So it's available for Talend Cloud customers, but for the Qlik Talend Cloud customers, there is no point today to make it compatible with Qlik Talend Cloud pipeline workloads or any other stuff rather than the Talend Data Fabric solutions.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks. Next question. How does this work with a capacity subscription, and where is capacity measured?
Yeah. So just as a reminder, the capacity pricing model that we have is available through the Qlik Talend Cloud subscriptions.
Hmm.
So in that context, and especially with regards that it supports only Talend Data Fabric workload, we have two capacity bands, one dedicated for the number of execution and the other one dedicated for the duration of the executions.
Okay,
And the dynamic engine supports those two capacities because in the end, it's driven through the talent management console. So it acts exactly the same as the remote engine in that perspective.
great. All right. Next question. What security options are available for this? And you've touched on that quite a bit, but could you address it one more time?
Yeah, so first of all the images that we are providing, all the M charts that are providing for the dynamic engine deployment and operations are completely scanned. So each and every vulnerabilities that we can upfront to any new release that we can detect will be fixed. So on that consideration, there is no point. We are providing something which is completely secured. The second aspect is also to consider that we are minimizing the attack surface of the different images that we are providing by locking shell commands, locking any third-party application, third-party libraries that are embedded in the different images used for dynamic engine operations. So only JDK, the Java compatibility layer that is required to process the jobs, is provided to make things really clear, really secure for the end users. The second aspect is the communication layer between our services, hosted on
Hmm.
Qlik Talend Cloud, and the Kubernetes cluster, such as or the dynamic engine. So this communication layer is fully aligned with the standards. So SSL, TLS, everything is completely secured over the communication. So
Perfect.
those two aspects in the context of the dynamic engine, main focus of security that end users should pay attention with.
Wonderful. I agree. Great. Next question. Is it possible to keep track of chart registries using my own ingress?
Absolutely. So this is what I described in the context of the air gap. Whatever, if you are air gapped or not, the idea is to give you the possibility to automatically rely on a local registry for the different dynamic engine images and charts to version that on your side instead of just relying on the public Qlik registries. So you can do so, absolutely. Then for the job artifact, it's a different story. Like for the remote engine, everything is published on the Qlik Talend Cloud but we are only speaking about job artifact and not the data. So
Hmm.
there should be no concerns on the data sovereignty, let's say, that people may be familiar with.
Great. Next question. When is it expected for this capability to be moved more inside the UI? I guess it's a roadmap question. If there's any expected developments.
Yeah, so as of today, we are improving the talent management console to make the dynamic engine much more useful. So what I've shown, typically the logs, how to handle logs coming from different replicas when you deploy a data service or route, is something much more useful compared to what we used to see in the remote engine. Then the number of replicas, this is also something new compared to the remote engine. We have some path of improvement in the talent management console that will be part of a broader topic, what we call TMC integration into Qlik Talend Cloud. So this is a way to unify the different management console in one single, more consistent
Hmm.
management console across the different applications. And in that context, the dynamic engine will also benefit from those evolutions.
Very
This
cool.
is something that will be announced and will be delivered starting 2026. It's a long journey.
Nice. Well, appreciate that peek into the future. Next question. Does this support SOAP services?
Yeah. So data services or routes using REST or SOAP schemas are supported within the dynamic engine.
Great. Next question. Is it possible to migrate non-dynamic artifacts to dynamic, or perhaps even the remote?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So coming from a legacy remote engine to dynamic engine, we have introduced in the talent management console a mechanism called promotion. So if you have multiple environments and multiple dynamic engine environments, you create your promotion and then you run the promotion. At the task level, the workspace level, a plan, or even just an artifact, have selected a workspace that exists on both legacy environment and the dynamic engine environment. Then I want to promote this task that only exists in my legacy environment,
Hmm.
analyze it. The task already exists even on my dynamic engine environment. So I will replace this version by the newer one. I just have to hit the promote button and boom, the promotion has been made, the migration has been made. So here we can see that I have a new version that have been promoted 1 minute ago from a legacy environment to my dynamic engine environment. And then I can create a task, deploy the task on the dynamic engine and work with it.
That was such a simple process. That's great that it's so
Yep.
easy to migrate.
Yep.
Last question we have today. Is there a trial license available to try this out, or is a license required to use a
No,
dynamic engine?
so the dynamic engine capability is available for all the Qlik Talend Cloud customers. And if you are not yet a Qlik Talend Cloud customers, we have a trial experience where the dynamic engine and the talent solution are part of. So if
Great.
you want to have a look on what it means, how to use it, you can just ask for getting access to this trial experience, deploy the talent solutions in the context of the Qlik Talend Cloud solutions, and deploy the dynamic engine and play with it.
Fantastic. Jeremy, thank you so much for this demonstration and introducing this new capability to everybody. It seems really cool, especially how easy everything is to dynamically adjust to the demand and move things around without having any downtime. I think it's really powerful.
Thank you very much, Troy, to give me this opportunity showcasing the dynamic engine solution. This is really a new solution that we are putting a lot of effort and investment from the Qlik Talent perspective. So I hope that all the attendees enjoy what I've shown so far. I hope that all the attendees or part of them would also consider moving to the dynamic engine if it's not already the case. Of course, I'm available if you want to reach out to me to get much more detail, to have maybe a live demo together. So you can reach out to me directly. I'm product manager. So if you have any questions, if you have any requirements that are not yet addressed in the context of the dynamic engine, or even in the context of the processing solutions that are part of the Talend Data Fabric, you can contact me. Just as a reminder, so the Dynamic Engine is the new solution that we are pushing. It has been designed for Kubernetes, so if you are already operating a Kubernetes cluster, that's the way to consider now for processing Qlik Talend workloads. If you are not already operating Kubernetes, we can even help you deploy, configure a Kubernetes cluster through our professional services or even through partners that we work with. This is really a key way for you to manage the cost efficiency of your infrastructure. So it's not just a matter of how powerful the processing could be, but also how efficient the cost management will be in your organization.
Great. Thank you, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this session. And special thanks to Jeremy for presenting. We always appreciate having experts like Jeremy to share with us. Here's our legal disclaimer. And thank you once again. Have a great rest of your day.